Have you ever wondered what a Paradox Eevee would look like? Well, that's what we're going to see today. But not only that, I also made a Paradox form of each one of its evolutions. For those of you that don't know what Paradox Pokemon is, it's like a version of a Pokemon of the past or future. In this video, we will see specifically past Paradox versions. Every Paradox form has one of its original types plus a new one. So, how there are 9 evolutions, including Eevee, there are exactly 9 unused types, so each one would gain one of these missing types. I gave Eevee's Paradox form the Bug type, as this type is the one that is more flexible when it comes to transforming into something completely different, as bugs go through a metamorphosis stage, so it felt like the more fitting type for the Pokemon that has multiple evolutions. For its design, I made the ruff around its neck larger to look more like a moth. I gave it an extra pair of legs to make it look more like a bug type, and what was originally its tail, I made it look like an insect's abdomen, as it already had similar shapes. It's been 3 years since the discovery of Area Zero and the Paradox Pokemon who roam around it. And it seems like there are no more new Pokemon to be found in here. So scientists are starting to pack things up to search for new Pokemon elsewhere, and wait a moment, what's this? Right in front of my eyes, in live broadcast, there seems to be a completely new Pokemon, never seen before until now. It has a striking similarity to a certain Pokemon. Could this be a past Paradox version of Eevee? After carefully studying the subject, scientists have named it Dusty Ruff due to its collar on its neck that expels its scales as if it were a cloud of dust. This seems to be a defense mechanism to allow it to escape when it feels threatened. Just like Eevee, this past version also seems to be able to evolve into multiple Pokemon, something completely unique among Paradox Pokemon, although the way it evolves is quite strange. It seems like its evolution is only triggered under very extreme environmental changes. Scientists believe this is a way of adapting in order to survive. For its abilities, well, it's a past Paradox form, so I just gave it photosynthesis like every other Paradox Pokemon. Stat-wise, most Paradox Pokemon have a base stat total of 570, but this one is going to evolve, so it went with a total of 450, spread equally through each stat at 75, as this Pokemon is supposed to be more of an empty canvas with the potential to evolve into completely different things. For Vaporeon, I decided to go with a Dragon type. I originally wanted to turn it into Spinosaurus, making its frills be on its back, but I wasn't too happy with the design, so I ended up placing the frills on its face, similar to the Dilophosaurus, who you might remember from the original Jurassic Park. However, I did keep the Spinosaurus tail. Also, I would like to apologize for the quality of the speed paints in these videos. I made these some time ago, so most of them sadly don't have the sketching phase recorded. Anyway, I present to you millions of years ago, the legendary Pokemon Kyogre gained the upper hand over Groudon, resulting in widespread floods across the planet. In response to this drastic change, Dusty Ruff evolved into Frail Jaws, a water and dragon type predator equipped with a powerful jaw capable of crushing nearly anything in its path. For its stats, unlike Vaporeon, I made Frail Jaws a physical attacker. The rest of its stats are pretty similar, but a little higher than the original due to the higher base total. I based Jolteon on the Androsaurus, a large prehistoric mammal with a really long snout. I didn't want them all to be based on dinosaurs, and I thought that making one a mammal would give some nice variety. This design has been the most divisive up until now. Some really loved the goofy aspect, but some others found it to be a little too much. I personally love goofy Pokemon, so it might actually be my favourite out of all of these. But that's the beauty of art, everyone has different tastes, so a Pokemon that you hate might be someone's favourite and vice versa. So I present to you, what if the world were to experience intense earthquakes and thunderstorms? In such a scenario, with most resources buried deep underground, Dusty Ruff would evolve into Feral Sniffer, an electric and ground type Pokemon that possesses an exceptional sense of smell, enabling it to locate food buried several kilometers beneath the surface, along with strong claws designed for digging it up. Stat-wise, unlike Jolteon, I don't imagine it being so fast. Its speed would still be decent, but this time its highest stat is its HP. The animal it's based on looks like something tough with high tolerance to pain, like a bull or a boar, so I think it's fitting. It's also a physical attacker now. For Flareon, I didn't base it on any particular animal, just a more primal looking version of it. I decided to make it a poison type due to the volcanoes having toxic fumes made out of sulfur and other gases in them. These gases can also slightly change the colour of the fire into a blue or pink hue, so I tried to present that in its design. I present to you, as volcanoes erupted across the globe following Groudon's upper hand over Kyogre, the Earth's temperature soared, causing most bodies of water to vanish. The atmosphere became laden with toxic fumes, forcing Dusty Ruff to undergo a dramatic transformation into Sulfuric Mane. This fire and poison type Pokemon harnesses the power of the noxious mist, intensifying its flame to scorching levels that deter any Pokemon from approaching. For its stats, I went with really high special defense and special attack. I think giving a high attack to Flareon never made sense anyway, so I think this works better. Just like Flareon, I didn't base Espeon on any particular animal. I got inspired by the concept of shamans. Shamans are people regarded as having access to and influence in the world of good and evil spirits. While not something prehistoric, they are quite tribal, so I thought it could have some potential for the design. I gave it white markings on its body, resembling body paint, as well as a few spikes around its tail to make it look like a skeleton. I present to you, in prehistoric times, Dusty Ruff faced fierce competition from a variety of powerful predators, making survival a daunting challenge. To overcome this adversity, it underwent a remarkable transformation into Dreary Ghoul, a psychic and ghost type Pokemon that draws its strength from the vengeful spirits of fallen warriors. Through a profound bond forged from shared grievances, it enters into a pact with these restless souls, vowing to avenge them in exchange for their spectral powers. Of course, for its stats, it's still a special attacker, so its stat spread is quite similar but slightly higher everywhere. As Umbreon is a moon evolution, I thought I should give it some kind of space theme. And I don't think anything would fit better than the meteorite that almost wiped all of life on Earth millions of years ago. So I gave him a rock-like body full of glowing cracks that shows its immense power and a tail made out of meteorites. I present to you, when a colossal meteorite struck Earth 66 million years ago, it led to the extinction of 75% of all Pokemon life. Fascinated by the sheer force of this event, Dusty Ruff was drawn to the meteorite, which catalyzed its evolution into Dark Cataclysm, a dark and rock-type Pokemon that possessed the ability to manipulate gravity at will, summoning additional meteorites to crash down upon Earth, thus possessing a significant threat to all forms of life. Unlike Umbreon, I didn't make Dark Cataclysm a highly defensive Pokemon. Instead, I made it a fast, mixed attacker. Hi everyone. Just a small break to let you know that if you want to help support the channel, you can become a member and get some awesome perks. This month, I'm offering some PNGs on these Silksong Fakemon I made, so be sure to check the membership plans to see what interests you more. Anyway, let's get back to the video. While I didn't want to make every evolution a dinosaur, I did want some of them to be based on them. And this was the case for Leafeon, who I thought that the Stegosaurus would fit the best, as the spikes on its back are leaf-shaped. I decided to go with the steel type, as grass is also called a blade, just like a sword. So I present to you, Dusty Ruff's adorable and innocent appearance made it a tempting target for the apex predators of its time. To safeguard itself, it evolved into Piercing Hedge, a grass and steel type Pokemon that developed leaves on its back as hard as steel, featuring razor sharp edges that deter predators from launching an attack without suffering serious injuries. When threatened, Piercing Hedge can leap into the air with its powerful legs and spin, creating a formidable sword blade effect capable of slicing through anything in its path. Leafeon has a really high attack, and while I think that this version should also be a physical attacker, I think that its highest stat should be its defenses, especially its physical defense as it protects itself with its steel blades. Glaceon is a very elegant Pokemon, so I wanted to give it a completely different feel to it, to look fierce and tough, so I added the fighting type. I based it on a saber-toothed tiger. As I'm sure many of you know, this is a large feline with two big fangs coming out of its mouth. and added some markings on its body resembling scars to show how tough it is. Its body, instead of being fully blue like if it was covered in ice, it's only halfway there, like if it was a transitional stage from the start of an ice age. I present to you, as the world of the past descended into an eternal ice age, Dusty Wrath was compelled to adapt to its unforgiving environment. Resources became scarce, forcing the Pokemon to compete fiercely for survival. This harsh reality gave rise to Thawing Spear, a nice and fighting type Pokemon uniquely equipped to thrive in frigid temperatures and engage in brutal combat. With the ability to manipulate its ears at will, Thawing Spear wields them as formidable weapons, capable of piercing through its adversaries with precision. At this point, I feel like I'm mostly swapping the stats as most physical attackers have become special and vice versa. But honestly, it wasn't on purpose. I didn't even think of their stats until much later. So for Thawing Spear, yet again I swapped its stats, and this time it's a physical attacker instead of special. However, just like Glaceon, still has a high defense. And finally, Sylveon. As the only type missing is the flying type, what other animal could I base it on except for a flying dinosaur? So I went for a mix of Pterosaurus and Archaeopteryx, which Archon is based on. I present to you, in a distant past, the advantages of size diminished as food became scarce and oxygen levels decreased. In response to these challenges, Dusty Wrath evolved into a more agile form known as Pixie Plume. This fairy and flying type Pokemon is remarkably swift, capable of evading any attack effortlessly, infiltrating a Pokemon's den to pilfer their food. Its feathers possess healing properties, rendering it immune to illness. However, this also makes it an attractive target for predators, despite the difficulty in capturing it. For its stats, I actually gave it the same spread as regular Sylveon, just buffed up because of the increased base total. And that is all for today. But before I finish, I would like to thank Redclaw87 and Jonathan Camp Brown for helping support the channel by becoming a member. Just a reminder that you can also become one to get some awesome perks, as well as helping support this growing channel. But if that's not of your interest, you can also support the channel by following and sharing with your friends on social media. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video and don't forget to leave a comment letting me know what you want to see next. See you in the next one, bye!